A Child's Christmas in Yorkshire. The Christmas Bow. I remember waking up early that Saturday morning. It was cold and it felt grey. It was always cold and grey in our bedroom, and you could never tell if it was raining or snowing or foggy or what, 'cause the window always looked the same, wet and grey, until you gave it a wipe. I was just going to get our Jimmy to go and wipe it with his sleeve when he jumped onto me bed. "3 more sleeps," he shouted. "Just 3 more sleeps." "Get lost," I said, and I pushed him off. He crashed onto the floor and just missed the Jerry by inches. He wasn't bleeding, but I knew he'd cry. And then we heard, "Quiet, you lads!" It was me dad, downstairs. "See," I said, "you've got him in a bad mood already, and he hasn't even seen your blooming face yet this morning." Jimmy just sniffed, 'cause he knew he couldn't cry now, or he'd be in even more trouble. And he'd take me with him. "Well, you just leave me alone then," he said, "or we won't get to go." We had to be good today. Real good. It was the last Saturday before Christmas. Christmas shopping day. And we'd all walk into Malton with about 2 shopping bags each, and Mum and Dad would buy everything we needed for Christmas. Some dates, some nuts for in that bowl, a bottle of Bristol cream sherry that tasted nowt like cream, some baby shams for me mum, and lots of pairs of socks and gloves for people. That was the boring bit. But we'd also get to go to the co-op and sit on Father Christmas's knee and tell him what we wanted for Christmas. That was the good bit. Some of the other kids in school had been asking if I still believed in Father Christmas, as though one of these years belief would just run out, like money or coal. Well, and I haven't told anybody this, so you be quiet when you've heard it. I think I do believe. But I'm not stupid. I mean, I know he doesn't come down chimney with all presents and stuff, 'cause you've only got to stick your head round fireplace and you're black, and he never looks black in the pictures. And I think all that stuff about the reindeer's a bit far-fetched and all. Well, I don't know how he gets here, or into house, and I don't much care as long as he comes. And I know that if he really was complete magic, and made absolutely everything, or anything you wanted, then I'd get whatever I asked for. And I never did. Every year Dad would say, "Oh, Father Christmas isn't made of money, you know." Then Mum would say, "Well, you know, he might not be able to bring you all that this year." So I don't know if parents pay him for making presents, or if they give him some money to go out and buy stuff. Somewhere along the line there seems to be a bit of a limit on what you can actually get out of him. Mind, as me dad says, it doesn't hurt to ask. And it seems you can still ask for whatever you want, because when you get on Father Christmas's knee in the co-op, the mums and dads are usually miles away, buying gloves and socks and stuff. See, I think that when you stop believing, that's when you start getting presents bought for you by relatives, and boring relatives always get you boring stuff. So I think it's worth believing, and it doesn't cost out. Anyway, when we got to Malton this morning, I was going to ask for a bow and arrow for Christmas, a real one, not one of them daft little things with a rubber sucker on the end that you have to spit on so they stick. No, I wanted a real bow and real arrows, like Robin Hood's, but more modern, with steel tips that could stick into trees and coalhouse doors, and maybe, just maybe, if I went across the fields real quiet like, a rabbit. I could go hunting and bring all kinds of game home for a feast. Yeah. A real bow would make me into a real hunter, and I knew I couldn't have a gun like Grandad's, 'cause I'd been asking for that every blooming year. So I had it all planned out what I'd asked for when we went to co-op, and that was a good bit of the day. But then we'd go for our dinners in a cafe somewhere, and that was another good bit. Me dad was opening the back door. "Are you lads ready then, or what?" So we pulled our good clothes on and ran downstairs. Well, I ran, but Jimmy seemed to trip near the top step, just as he was trying to get in front of me. But anyway, we both got down, and he soon stopped crying when Dad threatened to leave him behind. "Here, eat this on the way. I don't want you two nattering for grub as soon as we get there." And Mum gave us both a thick slice of toast with strawberry jam on. I knew there was Christmas magic in the air, 'cause we both found our coats and wellies first go, and without being shouted at. 2 minutes later we were off, marching up the street towards Malton. Me and Jimmy walked in front and kicked through the leaves, while Mum and Dad walked a bit behind, talking quietly, like they do when somebody's died, or when they don't want us to hear. I didn't care. It would soon be my turn to talk quietly and have a secret, when I saw Father Christmas on my own, to have a quiet word, as me Dad would say. The shopping was boring as usual, and Dad argued with the butcher about the turkey, and Mam went red and left the shop, dragging us with her. Then we loaded about 15 bags full of spuds and onions and stuff, and I asked for some holly with bright red berries on, but Dad said no, 'cause he could get some for nowt, and Mam told him to shush, then smiled nicely at the man behind the counter. Outside, after she'd said her usual bit about never having been so embarrassed, though we all know she has been, we set off down Main Street to the Co-op. Dad was laughing, in between singing, "Oh, the holly and the ivy, when they are both full grown, of all the trees that are in the wood, it's the holly that gets nicked," and Mam kept shushing him. Then we were there, at the Co-op doorway, and we shoved in. I could see him right away, down a long passage between some settees and tables, up on a platform thing covered in pretend snow with a little house behind him. He was on a big red chair, and just in front of him was an elf in a short green coat and glasses. She looked just like Jane Ibbotson, who used to live opposite, but she moved when she turned 16 last year. But she looked just like her. "Now then, Jane," said me Mam to the elf as we got to the front, "keep an eye on these two. We'll be back in 10 minutes, just going upstairs to clothing. All right?" "Right, lads. Want to see Father Christmas, do you? Just stand there," she said, and pulled a bit of rope round behind us, as if we were going to turn around and run off or summat. "Now then, just wait till he's finished with Tommy Fletcher, and you won't have long, 'cause it's his dinner time in a minute." Tommy Fletcher. Now there's a smarmy little beggar if you ever had to shoot one. Teacher's pet and all. And he was taking blooming ages to ask for his presents. He was reading from a flipping list, and I thought that was a bit off, but Jane the elf didn't seem to mind, and Father Christmas didn't say out either, but he looked at his watch a couple of times. And then it was us. Our turn. I stepped up, but then I felt a pull on me collar that nearly put me blooming neck out. "Jimmy first, he's youngest," said the elf, and she pushed him through and up to Father Christmas. He was looking a bit tired, and when Jimmy climbed up on his knee, he made a noise like me grandad sometimes does, like a balloon going down, real slow. He had some black glasses on. Round they were, but they were mended in the middle with some sellotape. His beard wasn't very white either, and it looked a lot like cotton wool, but I'm sure it was really him. It was really Father Christmas. "So, what do you want for Christmas then, Derek, eh?" I looked around, and it was the elf, bending down to ask me, and making me turn around so I couldn't listen in on our Jimmy asking. I thought, I'm not telling her. What's it got to do with her? She's just an elf. Sod you, I'm only telling Father Christmas. A quiet word. "Come on," she said, "let's be knowing what you want. If you don't tell us, you might end up getting nowt." "But," I said, "I want to tell Father Christmas, not you." "Oh, don't be so daft," she said. "I end up telling him anyway, 'cause he forgets everything. You don't want him forgetting what you ask for, do you? You might end up with a hula hoop." "Oh, no. Who wants a flipping hula hoop?" "Well," I said, "actually, I'd really like... I'd like a bow and arrow. A real one, not with a rubber sucker, but with steel tips that stick in." "Oh, a bow and arrow," she said. "Right, I'll tell him." And then she unclipped a bit of rope again and pushed me back through, away from Father Christmas. I looked round, but he was getting up off his big red chair now, and Jimmy was coming back to me, all smiling and daft-looking, and he had a big red lollipop and all. "Hey, where'd you get that?" I said, and he just nodded behind him, saying, "Him, he's got a bag full." And I looked, but Father Christmas had gone, and the elf was across talking to a woman near some table lamps. She'd stuck a sign on the rope saying, "Gone for lunch, back at 1." "So I asked him for a tray now," Jimmy said, "and a fort and a new football and a knife and one of them big selection boxes and that book of aeroplanes like Derek Bradshaw hasn't." "Shut up," I said. "I didn't even get to ask for out. Did you see? Did you see what that elf did? She bundled me out and then he's buggered off for his dinner." "Ooh," said Jimmy. "Happen you'll just have to write to him then." And I was just about to thump him when me dad came round aisle corner. "Right, lads," he said. "Ready for some grub?" And Jimmy ran up to him, rattling off that damn list again. Me dad smiled at first, but it seemed to fade a bit as Jimmy got past the football. "And what did you ask for, son?" he said to me. "I never got chance," I said. "That blooming elf pulled me out and he's gone for his dinner." "Oh, dinner. Champion idea," said me dad. "Let's go and have some and all." And we all marched out and met me mother on the pavement outside. "Mucky duck then, mother," said me dad, licking his lips and looking down the street towards traffic lights. "You are not taking these lads to the pub for their dinner," said Mam, the way she says things when you know she isn't going to say 'em again 'cause she doesn't have to. "Bet is," she said. We'll go to Betty's for a nice sandwich and a cup of tea." But I could tell me Dad was wanting more than a cup of tea to put him right. See, me Dad didn't like Christmas shopping. He didn't like any shopping. In fact, he bloody hated it, 'cause I heard him tell me Grandad every week, "Oh, come on, love. They do a lovely sandwich in Mucky Duck, and you can have a small sherry." "I do not need a small sherry, thank you very much," said Mam, and she turned, grabbing our Jimmy's sleeve. "You go where you like," she said, "and you make up your mind and all," she said to me, "and sharpish." "Come in with me, son," said me Dad, smiling now 'cause he'd got his own way, and you could tell he was already tasting the beer. Half a minute later, me and him were at Mucky Duck, although some people call it the White Swan, like it says on the sign over the door. It was real busy, but me Dad soon caught Poker's eye. Poker worked behind the bar, and funnily enough, he only had one eye to catch. He'd had the other one poked out in a fight years ago, so they say, during Scottish Fortnight. And he had a funny hand with some fingers missing. Dad said he used to work on a farm and lost them in a grass reaper, and they used to call him Thumber, 'cause that's all he had left on his right hand. They said he was daft for losing his fingers, but when he came to work at pub and lost his eye trying to stop a fight, they said he was very brave, which I know means the same as clever. They stopped calling him Thumber and started calling him Poker. I suppose he must have a real name somewhere, but nobody seems to know where it is. "Pipe, please, Poker, and a still orange for the lad. Oh, and a couple of growlers, please. Ta." Great, I thought. We're having a growler for dinner. Mam and some other mothers called them pork pies, but they're growlers, really. "Here, go and sit over there at that table. I'll bring you grub in a minute." So I carried me orange juice across and sat near the fire. There was another man using the table as well, but there was an empty chair, so I climbed on, being careful not to spill me drink. "Hey up, young un," said the old man, looking up from his sandwich. "Hello," I said. "Derek, what sauce do you want with your growler?" called me Dad from over at the bar, and everybody could hear him. See, I always have tomato sauce on everything, especially on chips and sausages and growlers, but me Dad always has HP, and he'd been trying to get me to have some. He says tomatoes for girls, says I'll never be a man if I don't have HP, but it doesn't half burn your tongue. Anyway, I thought, I'm in a pub and folks are looking, so it's probably best if I say HP. "HP, Dad," I said, as if I always had HP. I thought about asking for hot mustard and all, but then my Dad would have taken mickey in front of everybody, and I'd be worse off than if I'd said tomato sauce, so I didn't. I was starving for me growler, and I did just try a small dip in the brown sauce. Ooh, burns a bit, hey lad, said the old bloke next to me. "Aye," I said. "Here," he said, "have some tomato on it, and don't like tomato sauce on a bit of pie." And he pushed his bottle across to me. "Thank you," I said, and I looked at him properly for the first time, like Mam said you should when you say thank you to somebody, and I saw his glasses. They were round, black, and mended in the middle with some sellotape. "Looking forward to Christmas, are you?" he said. "Yeah, I think so." "Aye, thought you would be. How old are you?" "Nearly 10. "Oh, you won't be bothered about Father Christmas then. All them toys and stuff, nowt in your line, I don't suppose." I knew he was teasing me, but you can't always tell when it's a stranger. I just filled me mouth with growler and took a big drink of orange so I didn't have to talk back. I'd seen me Dad do that at home when Mam was nagging him. "Aye, Christmas," said the old man, and he turned to look into the fire. "Not what it was," he said. I looked across at Dad to see if he was watching me or getting ready to leave, but he was getting another pint and talking to Poker about horse racing on telly. "No, not what it was. Kids not what they were, no. Songs, though. The songs, some of the songs, nice." I wasn't sure if he was talking to me now or to himself, like me Grandad does. He took a big drink of his pint and wiped his mouth on his sleeve. Then he coughed and spat into the fire, where it sizzled for a minute. Then he looked at me and smiled. "Away in a manger, no crib for a bed." He was singing. At me. "The little Lord Jesus laid down his sweet head. Nobody much was listening, but I couldn't help but hear. The stars in the bright sky looked down where he lay. The little Lord Jesus asleep on the hay. People had stopped talking now, and most of them were staring at us. I looked down at me plate, and I was wishing I hadn't finished me growler and drunk me orange so quick, 'cause now I had nothing to do, nothing to even look at. And he set off again. The cattle are lowing, the baby awakes, but little Lord Jesus, no crying he makes. Something in me throat was starting to burn. Maybe it was the brown sauce. I love thee, Lord Jesus, look down from the sky. It was taking ages, so I couldn't help but finish it for him. And stay by my side until morning is nigh. It was real quiet. They'd even turned the telly off. I didn't know where to look. Then the old man reached across and put his hand over the top of mine, and he coughed again and spat in fire, and while it was sizzling, people started talking again, and they put the telly back on. He sniffed. So, tell me, what is it you're wanting for Christmas, young man? A bow, I said. A bow and arrow. Oh, hey, Derek, lad, let's be back to meet your mother. My dad was calling to me across the bar. A bow, said the old man. A real one, I reckon, with proper arrows. Yes, I said, a real one, not rubber, not a small one, not pretend, not... And my dad collared me and pulled me away towards the door. Aye, said the old man. A bow. I thought as much. I never saw that old man ever again. In that pub or anywhere else. Never. But funny thing was, I got a bow and arrow that Christmas. A real one.